Hey guys, welcome to Nikki G TV, where we talk about your favorite movies, anime, and video games. Today we have a guest with us. He's my best friend, and you guys will start to love him too. Craig Shukri here. Today we're going to be talking about a few topics that we heard going on in the movie news. And the first topic that we got going on today, Craig, is the whole big scandal between Disney and Scarlett Johansson.
Ooh, it's getting juicy.
And I'm sure you guys have heard about what's going on with that. Scarlett Johansson is actually suing Disney over the release of Black Widow straight into Disney Plus as well, alongside the movie theater release. Now, Craig, you heard about this. What are your initial thoughts about the whole lawsuit?
My initial thoughts is that I am not super optimistic about the direction Disney is currently heading in under Bob Chapek. As you know, Bob Iger just stepped down, because this is not something that ever would have came to light under Iger. This would have been squashed and settled before it had to come to this. Clearly, Scarlett Johansson didn't even want this to become a public thing, but Disney gave her no option. Like, she did all the press for them, everything. She was all smiles. I think she was being a good sport. She didn't want to ruin, she didn't want this black cloud over the movie before it released. But it seems like from everything we're hearing, Disney ignored her to the point where she had no choice but to go public with this.
Yeah, and I think that's such a class act and such a tall tale for Scarlett Johansson. I mean, she did the whole press run. She went and visited all the place she was supposed to go, and no one had any semblance of this until like last week, in the beginning of the week, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, look, she was contractually obligated to, but if I would be there with like a stank face on the entire time.
Yeah, no one had any idea, and yeah. I mean, Disney's reply, like you were saying, Bob Chapek is kind of not a PR guy. Like his reply, where he was kind of just trying to say, I could pull up the exact quote, but he was just trying to say, like, how dare she try and, like, she's like putting people's lives at risk because of COVID, and she still made like 20 million based off of the movie theater release. But her entire stance is, hey, you guys are still robbing me money, and I'm kind of inclined to agree with her.
Right. Oh yeah, look, COVID is a very serious thing, but that's besides the issue of what they negotiated. This is the thing. Like, first off, Disney's response was so, like, just dumb. Like, they tried to flip it and do a personal shot at her, make her look like a bad person, and insinuate that her doing this means that she doesn't care about COVID and people that have gotten sick or unfortunately passed away. That's not this at all. The problem here is they had a contract in 2017 that they both agreed to. The theatrical window at that time was like, 90 to 100 days. That's what it was. No one knew COVID was coming. Unfortunately, this happened. But when something like that happens, then you renegotiate. What they did was they completely ignored her, like we saw Warner Brothers do. They corrected that, though, later on. And they said, they used the excuse, that the proper excuse at the time, that people were afraid to go, into public settings. But that's all fine and well. I'm all for that, stream from home, but you have to then respect the deals you had in place before that and make it up to your stars, because your talent is what makes you all this money, and they seem to have forgotten that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that you brought up, Craig, that Warner kind of beta tested this 6 months ago, and they were able to appease everything, fix all the contract negotiations, and everybody got paid accordingly.
It was not, though, without the backlash at first, because they at first did not try to do that.
Yeah, and then they fixed it. So you would think with like 6 months of watching out how that played, Disney would fix this, especially knowing that they were going to just release it straight to Disney Plus alongside the theatrical release. And I don't know, I think it was a big blunder on the side of Disney, and they have a lot of negative things going forward. What's your overall opinion on Bob Chapek?
I don't know a ton about the guy. I remember when they first announced that Bob Iger was stepping down and Bob Chapek was coming in, there was people who are like diehard Disney Parks fans. I don't know the ins and outs of the Disney Parks, but they were concerned because he was in charge of all the parks at the time. They said he was bad for the parks. Apparently, he's really only focused on the money aspect and how to save Disney money. Obviously, every CEO, listen, Disney is a business. They're always focused on money, but at least, with like the Walt Disneys and the Bob Igers, they knew we only have the parks and all these products because we have good stories that people care about. And it seems like Chapek is putting more of the business types in charge now of the studio heads. And I feel like it's going to get very messy for a while until, I think it's like all an ego thing. He's putting his own people in. And I think it's going to get messy for a while before it gets better.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how, the public reacts to this going forward. Do you think that if they stop supporting after a while, obviously there's going to be call for a big leadership change? But, even the parks, they've been struggling a little bit. I know a lot of people complaining about like the pre-registering and not being able to get online for the rides that they pre-registered for and stuff like that. So we'll just have to see how that is going forward. But back to Scarlett Johansson and the Black Widow, I guess we'll move on to the second topic we were thinking about discussing for today, which is an overall review of the Black Widow film. We both saw it together. You saw it a couple more times than I did, so you're helping pay Scarlett Johansson in that front. But what do you think of the movie overall, Craig?
I enjoyed it. I don't think it was the greatest movie of all time, the greatest Marvel movie of all time. Sorry about the noise in the background. Someone's doing dishes. Someone's got to do it, I guess, because I don't. But no, I thought it was a good movie. It was fun. My issue with it, a couple of issues with it, was first off, I think they started off very strong, especially with that flashback sequence of showing the widows being, basically kidnapped. I thought what I initially was concerned about going into it, the family stuff, I thought was going to be like corny and not make sense because of what we have established with that character. But that actually was like the saving grace of the movie for me. And Red Guardian's by far like my new favorite character.
Yeah, he was fun.
I thought all of the, the action scenes where she first meets her sister and they fight, I thought that was great. I thought even, the story overall with the villain, I thought had a lot of potential, but I feel like the third act is really where it kind of fell apart. And I feel like they made it too big for who that character is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, she's more, I feel like a solo Black Widow movie should have been more like spy thriller, kind of like Captain America 2. And at the end, it was like, oh, there's big buildings in the sky. They went back to the same trope of, this is spoilers, obviously. They went back to the same trope of everyone's controlled by one thing, and there's just one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like mass control. Instead of what I thought was cooler was that they were trained this way. There was no altering of, someone's brain. I think they've kind of went to that well too many times. And I feel like even the Dreykov character, he was great. I just don't think they really utilized him the way they should have. It was like, oh, I control the world. It's okay. No one would have figured that out by now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't have problems with Taskmaster for the same reason a lot of other people have problems. I don't really care about the gender swap aspect of it because they change stuff from the comics all the time. So certain things, if it fits the story better for the movies, it's different from the comics, obviously. I'm fine with that. And I thought it had potential with it being the daughter, but they didn't utilize her. So I didn't think Taskmaster was necessary at all, to be honest. But overall, I thought it was enjoyable. It was fun. It wasn't, it raised a couple questions about continuity and stuff, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I have the Rotten Tomato pulled up here on my other monitor. It has a 81% tomato meter and 92% audience score. Now, obviously,
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
No, as I'm saying, and people are, some people are saying that, this movie flopped because, of certain things that happened in the movie and because it's not good. It would have made a ton of money. It flopped because Disney decided to put it in Premier Access.
100%.
I went to someone's house who had bought it Premier Access. There was 5 of us watching it. Disney lost all that money because one person bought it, and now he has it forever. He watched it so many times for the one purchase of $30. That's why the movie lost money. Yeah. It would have made bank, honestly, if it had the biggest opening during the pandemic.
Yeah.
The only reason it lost money is because Disney messed around.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's a good movie. It's not the best Marvel movie by any stance, but it is a Marvel movie. It's got the Marvel recipe. It's pretty funny. It's pretty goofy. Pretty good fight scenes. I do have to say though, and I don't know if this is just my own opinion or what you think, Craig. It feels like a Winter Soldier repeat film, formula-wise. It's exactly the same thing. You go in and you find all the super soldiers, all the other Winter Soldiers, and it's the same thing with all the widows. They're all getting trained. They're all, toppling empires in the background, yada yada. I do like the whole mismatched family aspect, that this was the only family that they had, and I forget the character's name, but Black Widow's sister, she was saying that
Lena.
Yeah, the best part of her life was a lie, but it was still the best part of her life. That was a very emotional line, and I loved her character. I can't wait to see her going forward. I think she was a very strong point of the film. Red Guardian as well. I liked Dreykov's character. I think the acting was phenomenal. I think he played a very menacing, very scary actor. His motivation was a little weird. And Taskmaster, again, I feel like that was wasted potential. I don't care about the whole gender swap thing. I don't care about that. I think her being a female was more powerful, actually, because the whole thing was about Black Widows. They're all females. They're all toppling empires, killing people. They're all assassins. And the Taskmaster's keeping them aligned is also Dreykov's, spoiler, it's Dreykov's daughter, who was supposed to be killed. I think that was a very good story part, but she was not utilized at all. And if you removed her from the film, you remove her from the film, it doesn't really even matter. It doesn't make a difference plot-wise. Excuse me. It's what Red Guardian. It was, part of who Red Guardian was fighting, but that doesn't really make a difference. You could have literally thrown anybody in there and it would have been fine. But I don't know if I agree with the 81%. I think it's a weaker film. 81%. Let's equate that to 10. That's an 8.1 out of 10. I think it was less than that. I think it's like a 6.5 out of 10. I don't think it was the strongest Marvel movie. I think there was a lot of plot holes. I think the story was pretty generic, but overall I think it was a pretty good film. What would you give it a number-wise?
I would say this. The first two acts in the movie, I would say, is that I agree with the Rotten Tomato score. For me, the third act kind of ruined everything that they were building up to, though. Mm-hmm. I feel like they didn't have, like you were saying, it's kind of like a Winter Soldier repeat. I didn't feel like it was that until the third act, though. That's the thing, because they didn't really show their hand on what was going on until the third act.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe I give it like a 7.5. I really enjoyed it up until that point. That's where it kind of fell apart. Because even using his daughter would have been great, because that's like the red in her ledger. That's her whole troubled thing from the Avengers movie. And I think this movie also kind of suffered from being out way too late. It should have released during the time that it took place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It came out like 2016.
Yes, very good.
Then I think it would have been more fresh in people's brain, because that was a great storyline. They, like you said, they didn't utilize the daughter at all, but that could have been great. She didn't need to be in the Taskmaster thing. I think they felt that. I feel like maybe they felt like, we need someone in a suit. We got Iron Man, we got Captain America. These are superpowered beings, and people are not going to want to see this unless there's someone in a suit, kicking ass.
Right.
But I think that it would have been a way better movie if they actually scaled it down and just did it as is. Just these spies fighting each other. I thought it would have made a lot more sense. And they kind of, this is again going into a little, I'm reviewing again, but they kind of made her stronger than she was, like the car flip, her falling off that stuff. She wouldn't have really survived that. She doesn't have superpowers.
Right.
But I feel like they felt like it needed that for people to go there, and I think that was a mistake ultimately. But I'd give it a 7.5.
Okay, so still a little less than the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah.
Well, you guys heard it here. What do you guys think about the Black Widow film? What do you think about everything with Scarlett Johansson and Disney? Leave it all in the comments. Let me know as we move on to main topic number 2 for today. And I guess the bigger topic going forward, Craig, is we're going to be discussing the insane reviews that Suicide Squad is getting.
Ooh.
Currently sitting at a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, not even released yet. The full reviews are out. The embargo is up. 97%, 88 overall reviews. And people are saying crazy things like, A director with a taste for anarchy who crawled out of the same toxic sewer sludge as most of the characters. 4 out of 5. I'm so excited to see that. It's not for children, not really for adults either. It's inner adolescence that lives within us will almost certainly have a swell time. I'm a big kid at heart. So are you. What do you think about this movie, Greg? What do you think about all the buzz it's getting? I'm super excited.
I think if we've learned anything from this is that it pays to get canceled, kids. Look, obviously, the whole James Gunn thing. I don't agree with the tweets, but that was a mess, and ultimately got him this job. And he's a great filmmaker. This movie, I didn't love the first Suicide Squad movie, but the thing that I loved about the first Suicide Squad movie was the characters and the potential of those characters. So to see, obviously, it's not all the same characters, but you got Margot Robbie, who's I think her character Harley Quinn is maybe my favorite DC character currently, maybe besides Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. But, they have some of the similar characters, and the premise I thought could have been great. It just wasn't, I thought wasn't properly done in the first one, but it had a lot of potential. So now hearing that James Gunn was basically offered everything, and he's like, let me do Suicide Squad, and we know he's got some crazy, abilities and storytelling from the Guardians films, I am delighted to hear this. It seems like the DCEU is correcting course, and hopefully James Gunn does some more stuff now after this movie, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting my tickets as soon as this thing comes out.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this, Craig. I'm me, I'm a huge DC fan, have been a huge DC fan for years, and it was always kind of weird playing second fiddle to Marvel,
I'm glad you finally
the Marvel cinematic universe.
We've argued this a lot.
I mean, let's be honest though. I feel like James Gunn really made a movie like his career depended on it, and it's so excited to see. Like you said, he was canceled for a while and he got fired immediately. Warner picked him up, and it's almost like if I don't make a good film, my career is over. And he made more than a good film. He made an excellent, fantastic film. I mean, 97% out of 100, and it's not even open to fans yet. And
I think Warner Brothers learned from their mistakes, let's not meddle so much in the movies. They basically took the reins off and said, do what you want. Look, some studio interference is needed for certain things, continuity issues and certain things, obviously. Right. But I think this is a lesson to kind of just, you let your creators critique a little here and there, but don't take over the movie like Warner Brothers did do a couple years ago in the past. It seems like they learned from that. And now it seems like Disney and Warner Brothers are like polar opposites. It seems like now Disney's going down the route that Warner was on a couple years ago, and Warner Brothers is on a nice new bright path.
Yeah. I mean, when you kind of just let the director do what he's been doing for 20 years at this point, even longer, and just let him tell a compelling story with very interesting characters. And I think it kind of brings the whole DC characteristic of the company to a head. Very dark film, very violent film, but still very funny with kind of weird characters. I mean,
right.
I'm so excited for this, and I forget what the actual release date is. Do you know off the top of your head? August 8th or 5th?
I have it in my count.
So he has it in his calendar. But this is and I see this on the Rotten Tomatoes here. Yeah, 6th worldwide, August 6th streaming. So obviously where we are at 5th at midnight or something like that. But that brings up a good point of what we just talked about. It's releasing on stream, and you don't hear any issues with that. That's just a good point to bring up. But
yeah,
you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, well, probably because after that backlash, I think James Gunn was one of the people that also was pissed at Warner Brothers, because they initially were, just putting everything on there without telling them. I'm guessing that from that backlash, they called up every director. They're like, look, all right, we'll give you this much, to the talent as well. And they made a deal, which honestly, moving forward, all these lawsuits you hear about, maybe Emma Stone might have one, Emily Blunt might have one with Disney next. This is all shaping the future of the movies, honestly, and the deals that they're going to have to make with these people.
No. Yeah, I mean, back to Suicide Squad. I mean, I was super skeptical about the John Cena pick for Peacemaker. I mean, I haven't watched wrestling in years, but when I did, John Cena was on the top of the world, and I never thought he was like a fantastic actor. I didn't see him in the Fantastic Four films. I haven't liked Fantastic Four Fast and Furious as a series. Yeah, no, and Fast and Furious as a series, I haven't really liked it since like Tokyo Drift, which wasn't even that good of a movie. But to see him come in and completely like they liked him so much in the movie, they made a series after him, and word on the street is a couple of news outlets are saying, and a couple of insiders, that the Peacemaker show is incredible. They've like let a couple people see like 3 episodes, and those episodes have been absolutely outstanding. So I think this is a good direction for DC to go on, and Harley Quinn being, you know, such a fan favorite, and Margot Robbie being such a fantastic actress, you could have her spearhead the next direction of DC alongside Gal Gadot and Aquaman, these huge staples in DC. So and with Robert Pattinson's Batman, you know, wrapping up shooting, and Black Adam wrapping up shooting, I think it's a great direction for DC to head down. So I can't wait to see. Any final thoughts on the Suicide Squad stuff?
Well, just to the John Cena thing, if anyone's going to bring, you know, good acting out of a wrestler, it's James Gunn, because he did the same thing with Dave Bautista in Guardians. He knows how to utilize people and hone in on their specific abilities, and, you know, writes and directs for that. So I'm just excited.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That was a good point. Really good point. So you guys heard it here. Suicide Squad, is it going to be the biggest movie of the year? Who knows, but it's getting incredible reviews. What do you guys think about Suicide Squad? What are your initial reactions to it? Let me know in the comments down below. So Craig, those are all the topics that we really have for today. Do you have any final thoughts you want to say to anybody? Anything you wanted to get off your chest here? Where could we find you?
You can find me in a multitude of places. Right now, I'll just give you 2. You can go to my Instagram, which is Craig.Shukri, Shukri. You can also find me on the Collectors Showcase. We have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc.
Yeah, the Collectors Showcase, yeah.
I am glad we're finally doing this, buddy, because we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah. So next time we'll have a couple more things to go over. We'll have some more topics to hit up. But it was such a pleasure hanging out with you guys as well. Don't forget to hit up Craig on Instagram. Don't forget to follow the Collector Showcase if you're big into Pokemon cards, sports cards, all the nerd memorabilia you could possibly think of. Give him a follow, give him a love, and like this video and subscribe to the channel as well, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Thanks so much. Craig.
Thank you, sir.